Happy Sabbath, everyone, and welcome back to our AYS program this evening. This evening, we'll be having Pastor Dr. Sam Davis. Dr. Sam Davis, for those of you who weren't here this morning, has a PhD in naturopathic medicine, and he'll be sharing with us today the big topic of inflammation. And I must tell you, inflammation is the basis of most diseases. So if you think of the brain, Alzheimer's disease, that's inflammation. Stroke, the plaque buildup that causes stroke, that's inflammation. Heart attack, the plaque buildup that occurs in the coronary arteries, inflammation. Think chronic kidney disease, think lupus, think multiple sclerosis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, think just about any illness that you can think of, psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis, inflammation, right? And the pastor will be sharing with us today the ways in which we can prevent that from happening. And of course, as a Seventh-day Adventist, we preach the health message, the 8 laws of health, and we will see how through primary prevention, that is through our lifestyle, the choices that we make in terms of what we put inside of our bodies, how we can prevent inflammation from happening, and also how we can stop it if it's already occurring in our system, right? I must tell you that as someone who is battling illness after illness in terms of, well, not chronic illnesses, but flu and COVID because I work in hospital, I must say that the natural remedies, some of us are strong ambassadors for the natural remedies, right? The herbs, right? So I am a strong ambassador for it because I can tell you that they work so much better than the pharmaceutical stuff that you can buy. So think the garlic, the turmeric, the ginger, so much better for your stuffy nose, runny nose, cough than the things that you buy over the counter like paracetamol, Sudafed, as well as Nurofen. So please pay attention and realize that what God has given us is so much better than what the scientists are promoting and pushing and writing on a prescription for us, okay? So please listen keenly. At this time, I'll quickly lead out the prayer this evening. And if you can all join me in prayer, to stand to your feet, please. Father, thank you so much for organizing our health day today and making it a great success. And thank you for guiding Dr. Pastor Sam Davis all the way from Spain to share with us today. Share your health message, Father. And we pray that we would all be able to take away something this evening and share it not just with our families, but with our friends. And that today, that there will be many people joining us online and that they too can see how it is that they can impact their own health at home by making simple choices in terms of the food that we consume on a daily basis. Lord, thank you so much again for making this possible. In your name I pray. Amen.
So I just want to thank Dr. Jason for that introduction. And I just want to make sure, Eddie, you've got me on the screen. So we're talking about inflammation, the gateway to disease. And as he rightly pointed out, it really is the gateway to so many of the diseases that we are suffering from. So the Apostle John writes, and he said, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers." And that's God's desire for every one of us. You know, God wants us to be healthy. And let me say this. If you're not healthy, you cannot really praise God in the way that you should. Do you believe that? You know, it's so annoying if you've got just a little splinter in your finger. Just a little. Do you know how that thing affects all of your body? It's just so annoying. You've got to get it out. You know, and so just imagine when there is something major that's going on within your body. It saps your energy, it takes away your joy, and that is not God's desire for us. In fact, John says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health." And I mentioned this morning, Joshua chapter 7 and verse 6. "Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell to the earth on his face before the ark of the Lord until evening, he and the elders of Israel. And they put dust on their heads." And you will remember they had just had this fantastic victory over in Jericho. And Joshua says, "Lord, we don't need all these people. We'll just take a few. We'll take 3,000 and we'll go up and we'll give them a whooping and we'll be back before nightfall." And they went up and they were destroyed. You know, they lost so many people. and Joshua comes back and he falls on his face with the elders on the ground, and they're saying, Lord, how could you embarrass us in front of our enemies like this? This is shameful. You could have told us off when we got back. This is just disgusting. And the Lord said, get up, Joshua. What you're praying about? There is sin in the camp. And very often we are praying and we're asking the Lord for healing, and yet there is something that we can do about it. And as Dr. Jason was saying, there are so many natural remedies that we can be using, but we want the quick fix, we want the easy way out. And notice what God says again, Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 11, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. And so that's God's desire for every one of us, that we should have a healthy, vibrant, dynamic future. That's what God wants for every one of us. And so what is inflammation? Let me just begin by saying that we all need inflammation. If we did not have inflammation in our bodies, then there really would be a problem, because inflammation helps the healing process. So when you get a cut, when you get a bruise, or something is broken, all those white blood cells and neutrophils, they rush to that part of the body, and the pus that comes out is the dead white blood cells as you are healing. And so we need that inflammation. But once that part of the body is healed or cured, then they go away. It goes away. You don't need it. So it's a normal part of the body's response to injury or infection. So just have a look on the screen then, and you'll see all the things that come about as a result of what we call chronic inflammation. This is inflammation that comes but doesn't go away, whether you talk about ocular disease, renal disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. In fact, they call Alzheimer's diabetes type 3. Diabetes type 2 is all of it is inflammation. These are all inflammatory diseases. And so this afternoon, we want to know about what are the things that we are doing that causes these inflammatory diseases in our body. So chronic inflammation occurs when the body's immune system mistakenly attacks healthy tissues in the absence of injury or infection. So this is inflammation that's going on in the body when you don't have anything to cure. Let's put it that way. So there are things that we are doing that creates inflammation in the body. And so I'm going to share some things. It might be more than 10 because I've amended this, but I'm going to share some things with you that causes inflammation in the body. And the first thing is sugar. One of the major causes of inflammation in the body is sugar. Put your hand up if you don't like sugar. Not many of us, we respond to sugar, and what happens is that when you eat something sweet, it goes to the limbic system in the brain. That's the pleasure system. And so you don't have to tell children not to like sugar or to like sugar, because they immediately resonates with them. We just love sugar. And then what about all these lovely goodies on the screen? These are the things that appeal to us. This is why we keep going back and back. We love the sweet things. And have you noticed? You may go to B&Q, or you go to Primark, or one of these stores, and you are leaving. As you're going to the checkout, they have all the sweets there for you. They have all the sweets there to tempt you, because they know you've got to pass that way, right? And these things, they appeal to our senses. But I would also say to you that sugar is acidic in the body. So sugar makes the body acidic. And what happens is this, that disease thrives in an acidic environment. Okay? So your body needs to be alkaline. Ideally, the body should be alkaline. And when we are taking in a lot of sugar and a lot of these inflammatory causing foods, then that is what is causing inflammation within the body. And so on the farm, one of the things that we teach people to do is how to make the things that you like, the things that you want to eat, but do it in a healthy way. So instead of using sugar to sweeten things, we use dates. That's a natural fruit. So I make a nice Jamaican cornmeal pudding, no sugar. It is lovely. I'm sorry I didn't bring any with me today. But, so just think about the things that you like and ask yourself, how can I do this in a healthy way? All right? And then I've put number two. Is this number two? Number two. Number two is you may think of alternatives. So let me take artificial sweeteners, okay? This is even more deadly than sugar. So do not make the mistake of thinking that, I'm going to pick up a diet or a light drink. So anything with Diet Coke or light or ultralight on it, these are all acidic to the body. It's creating inflammation because these artificial sweeteners are worse than sugar. Okay? So please do not make the mistake of thinking, well, I'm going to take something, a different form of sweeteners. Sometimes some of these sweeteners can be 200 to 600 times sweeter than sugar. But it's very, very harmful to the body and it's creating, and let me just point out there, chewing gum seems to be going out of fashion. I don't see a lot of people chewing gum these days, but chewing gum, what the sweeteners that they're putting in that, again, is toxic to the body. And these are some of the things that we need to be avoiding. And then number three, the seed oils. Okay, so when we talk about seed oils, we're talking about corn oil, sunflower oil, vegetable oil, any one of the oils that you're talking that you are using. You may think that these are good food, on the label it will tell you that these is wonderful, etc., etc. But these are the things that we need to be avoiding because they create inflammation in the body, and that's why so many people we're walking around with bodies that are inflamed because we are frying our foods, we're using these oils, and these oils are toxic to the system. The best oil to be using is olive oil, cold-pressed virgin olive oil. This is what we produce on the farm. I'm sorry. We produce this oil on the farm. This oil is not for cooking or frying. This is oil that you would put on your salad, or you may want to put some of it on your food after you finish cooking. But any oil that you heat, that's applied heat to it, you are changing the molecular structure. It becomes a trans fat, and it's toxic to the body. So you're creating inflammation. I'll do it afterwards. I'll do it at the end, Lorraine. Yeah. All of these foods, whether and so number three. Let me just come back here a bit. These oils, they will, when you use them, you are creating fatty acids. Number 6, omega-6 fatty acids, which again create free radicals within the body, and we want to look for our omega-3s and anti-inflammatories, and I'll talk some more about that. So in this description here, number 3, we're talking about fried foods. Okay, my numbers were a little bit skewed. This should be number 4. This is, so if you've got onion rings, you've got your fried chicken and your chips and so on, just think about the amount of damage that you're doing to the cells within the body eating this kind of food. Some people eat this every day. You know, when I was, let me just do a little bit of confession here. When I was growing up as a child, My favorite meal at home was when my mum would cook fried dumpling, fried eggs, and we would have chips as children. We'd say, yippee! This was our favorite meal, but deadly, eh? You know, so we ought to be aware of these kind of things. It's so we love the fried foods there, but be aware they're rich in calories. This is raising your blood sugar levels. These are also, if you continue eating this kind of food, you are laying the foundation for cancer and other diseases. The doctor referred to it, heart disease, clogging up the arteries of the body. You know, so diabetes, all of these things, when you're eating these foods, you are laying the foundation. I talked this morning about your pension health. So a good pension health means that when you reach that age, 65, 66, you've still got a lot of living to do. That's a time you can go, you've got time to go around and so on. But if you're doubled up, if you're in pain and so on, you're really not enjoying the very best of life. So if you want a life where you can move around and do all the things that you need, enjoy your grandchildren, etc., then you need to be planning for that now through your diet and your lifestyle. So these are all the fried foods that we love to eat. But the question is, how can we get the foods that we want? If you know, for example, if you go to a restaurant or you go to your local fish and chip shop, the man behind the counter is not changing the oil just for you. You know, you come in and he's going to give you a new oil, and it's no, that oil is being used over and over and over. It is toxic to the body, and you know there is you're laying the foundation for inflammation and disease. The omega-6 fatty acids are there in these kind of foods, and so we need to be very, very careful about this. So you should be. I'm recommending that if you want to, the best thing to do is to get yourself an air fryer. You know, so if you have the air fryer, we make our chips in the air fryer. It's just like just baking them. You can do it in the oven. So you're not denying yourself chips, but it's just not that it hasn't soaked up all that oil, which becomes a trans fat within the body. Okay? So we need to think about how we're going to do these things. And then number 5, living with chronic stress. God made this body to be in homeostasis, that is in equilibrium. We were made to live in a peaceful, happy environment, clean environment. That's what God made for us. And in fact, the Garden of Eden was the perfect environment. So what happens when stress comes? It releases the hormone cortisol, which is the fight or flight hormone. Now, if you're living like that all the time, then, of course, your body is going to become inflamed. You're living at home with a lady called me just recently, and she said, you know, Pastor, I've had cancer twice. I've had cancer twice in the last few years. And I said, well, tell me what's happening. She said, my husband and I, we are living in the same house, but we're not living together. We are not divorced, but we're living in a toxic environment. So she's constantly under stress. Well, I said, no wonder you've had cancer twice. You know, the body's not, God never made us to be living in tension, to living, in a situation where you're coming home and before you put the key in the door, you're tense, you're frightened, you don't want to go home. Get out. Go live somewhere else. You know, God did not make us to live in a stressful environment. The body becomes inflamed. If you're running hard at work, your boss is giving you a very hard time, and so you're living in an environment that cortisol is just in the body all the time. Body is inflamed, and you're going to get sick. So they say, studies have shown that one of the most stressful things you can go through is a divorce. And it's not surprising when somebody is going through a divorce and a woman will say, well, I've developed breast cancer or some form of illness because of the stress. So God, it's not God's desire that we should be living in such stressful environment. And then unforgiveness. You know, in the heart of a Christian, unforgiveness hinders the answer to our prayers. You remember that Jesus told the parable, and he said that there was this man who was owed a lot, and the master forgave him the debt, and he went out and he found somebody who owed him just denarii, just this very small amount. And he grabbed the man up by the throat and says, pay all that you would. And he wouldn't pay. He couldn't pay. He said, give me time and I will pay you. And he was unreasonable and he threw the man in prison. And, you know, many of us, we've grabbed up somebody by the throat. And if you're living in a situation where you are unwilling to forgive, then you're living with bitterness. And that bitterness is causing inflammation in the body. Did you know that? You know? And so we just need to live in forgiveness, because when you forgive others, you're forgiving yourself. And in fact, that is the gateway to our relationship with the Lord. You cannot expect the Lord to forgive you when you've not forgiven your brother. You know, I was in Dubai just a few years ago, and I met this lady. They said, Pastor, there's somebody we need you to meet. And they took me to this lady who had become a guarantor. She'd become a guarantor for a friend. This lady, in her closing years of her employment, and she'd come to Dubai to kind of boost her pension. And this friend asked her to sign the, what did I say it was? Guarantor. She signed the guarantor. And this woman then made a few down payments, decided that she'd had enough, and just got on a plane and went back to her country. And you know, they came and took that woman and put her in prison. This is in Dubai. The biblical times put her in prison until she could pay the debt. And when I met her, she had lost everything. So that's just an aside. Do not sign guarantor for anybody, not even your mum. And so it was just this terrible experience, but you're living with the stress. And God never intended that we should live our lives like that. Okay, so obesity is another cause for inflammation, because, you know, all the toxins, we're living with toxins on a daily basis, car fumes, the toothpaste, your perfume, whatever it is you put onto your body comes into your bloodstream. And so when you are obese, all those toxins are stored in the fleshy tissues of the body. And so we need to try to maintain a good body weight through exercise, proper eating, so that we minimize the amount of toxins that we take into the body. And then wheat. Wheat is another toxic food that's creating inflammation. And I don't think that many of us really realize that the wheat that we eat is hybridized. You know, so shortly after the Second World War, in order to maximize the output from the grain, it was genetically modified. And so the gluten within the wheat that we are eating is very, very difficult for many people to digest. So some people have celiac disease, they are wheat intolerant. And so you can look for another form of grain to eat. So we've got rye, we've got barley, there's corn. So look for different breads that you can be using. But the wheat has been, and we use spelt bread. In Spain, I buy spelt. I can get a kilo of spelt for about €1.40. I come here and I'm shocked at the price of spelt. It's $2.80 for a kilo. You know, so you want to look around for different types of grain that you can use. But let me also say something about this. So if you are using white anything, white rice. White rice is highly glycemic, so it's a food you should not touch if you are diabetic. White pasta, white bread, all of these create inflammation in the body. Okay? Now, I grew up in this church knowing that we should avoid these kind of foods, white bread, white rice, and so on, but that's the food we go to. Okay, that's what we eat. It's creating inflammation within the body. So whole grain foods are the foods that we should be going for. Whole grain rice, brown pasta, all of these things. I'm not telling you anything you did not know. I'm just reminding you that these are the things that we should be doing because we know all these things already. So it creates bloating, it has all the fiber removed. White bread produces inflammation within the body, and so these are the grains that we use. And it's amazing, let me just say this, that if you want to do anything at all, read food or basically anything, just go to the University of YouTube. You know, it is anything you want to do, beloved. Anything you want to do, any recipe you want to know about, you go to YouTube and somebody has already done it and prepared it for you. And so there's really no excuse at all. You know, this information is out there. And then leaky gut. Leaky gut, you know, the stomach lining was designed, it's designed by God in such a way that it only lets through water and nutrients to pass into the bloodstream. But what happens when that gut becomes leaky, then you're allowing bacteria and other pathogens to pass through, creating an environment for illness. So we need to, the leaky gut is formed by eating all kinds of foods, all kinds of the wrong foods, eating late at night, just abusing the gut. The stomach is the most abused organ in the body. Did you know that? So we get up in the morning, we're eating at 8 o'clock, we go to work, we're having tea and biscuits at 10, we're having dinner, lunch at 1, and then at 3 o'clock we've got tea break again, and then, you know, we come home in the evening at 5 or 6, and we're having something to eat again. And then on your way home, you're munching on something in the car. Am I telling the truth? Okay, you don't believe me, right? You're sitting there thinking, what's he talking about? Yeah, but that's it. And so the stomach is abused. You know, it is abused. And so we really, ideally, we should be having 2 meals a day, breakfast and maybe 2 or 3 o'clock. Our last meal. I understand if you're at work, that may be difficult. I had one lady contact me and she said, Pastor, you know, I'm in so much pain. And she wanted to come on the detox program. And so I said, yes, okay. And she said to me, I can't do the program that you're talking about because she said, I finish work. I'm a nurse and I finish work at 9 o'clock at night. And so when I get home at 10, that's the time I'm having my main meal. And I said, you know what, sis? If you didn't have that main meal, you will not die in the night. You know, you won't die. And so she agreed that she wouldn't die. And so she stopped doing that meal at 10 o'clock at night and just had it first thing in the morning. And it's amazing how it transformed her health. You know, within 4 days, the pain was gone. She said, my pain threshold went from 10 to about 0 in 4 days. You know, and so we just need to think about what it is that we're doing to ourselves. So toxins and bad bacteria enter the bloodstream through leaky gut. The other inflammatory process that I want to talk about is the lack of exercise. Ellen White says this: the only thing in the universe that is not moving is dead. Okay? So we were designed to move. You know, it's so important that we get up. And the prophet says that half an hour walk in nature is far more beneficial than any medicine the doctor can give you. Isn't that amazing? Just getting out there and walking, because walking is wonderful exercise, and I highly recommend it. You know, the Lancet, which is the journal for doctors and scientists, says that it's been shown that not exercising is equivalent to smoking. Not exercising is equivalent to smoking. And so it's so important, beloved, that we get out there and just, you know, I say, if you can only walk 100 meters, do 100 meters today, tomorrow do 110, next day do 150. And you will find that as you begin to move, as you become acclimatized. You know, some years ago I was in South Africa, and one of my members, he said, Pastor, they've told me that I need to do a quadruple bypass. Indian gentleman said, they need to do this quadruple bypass with me. And he said, I don't want to do it. I said, okay, change your diet. And he said, what do I do? And I told him what he needed to do: cut out all those rich Indian foods, the butter, the margarine, all of those things. You need to stop eating those things and just go on a vegan diet. And that man embraced it. He said he couldn't even walk to the bottom of his garden. Could not walk to the bottom of his garden. And I just encouraged him to do a little walking every day. And after a few months, he said he went back to the hospital for his doctor to look at him as they prepare for the operation. And he said his doctor was so shocked, he called all his colleagues in the hospital to come and look at his miracle patient. This man was now walking around the park in his house. He had changed his diet and completely transformed his life. You know, so exercise is truly, truly beneficial. This combination of exercise and good nutrition. And so, so ultra-processed foods. And I touched on that this morning, the ultra-processed foods. I'm in Jamaica, I'm in the shop, and there's this lady in front of me, and she had bought stuff coming over 2,000 Jamaican dollars. And I looked at what this woman had on the counter, and there was not an item of food. There was just things like your Wotsits and your crisps and all these sort of junk foods. And the incidence of cancer in Jamaica is just going up and up and up because they have all this disposable income, and people don't really realize that buying this stuff is what's killing them. And so ultra-processed foods, I talked this morning about the cereals that we've always thought of as healthy, but it's processed. Your Weetabix, your shredded wheat, your Special K, all of these things are ultra-processed foods. We call them junk foods. And so, talking about laying the foundation for disease in the body, these are the things that are doing it. And so we need to, what's wrong with making your own oats porridge? What's wrong with making cornmeal porridge? What's wrong with doing the things that we are so used to doing instead of going and buying it in the quick form? You know, so we come in the morning and we just pour it out and we pour milk on it and we begin our day. That's not real food. That's not real food. You know, that's not the way. So we want everything to be instant, but instant, you know, real food, you've got to chew it. Real food, you've got to make it. You've got to make it yourself. All right. So, lack of sleep. Again, I touched on this morning. When you are sleeping and you get a good night's sleep, the brain is actually detoxifying. Did you know that? You know, so there's a lot of toxins within the brain that when you have a good night's sleep, the brain is just cleansing itself of these toxins. And that's why Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan and people like that found themselves in trouble because they were not getting a good night's sleep. I was preaching in London, one of our London churches some time ago, and I met this young lady who was in a wheelchair, and I said to her, "What happened to you? What's wrong?" Because she was a friend of my daughter's. And I said, "What's happened?" And she said, "Pastor, I'm going to send you my story." And she sent me this video. And she said, "I was accustomed to, if I had an essay to do at college or a project to do, I could go 3 days without sleeping." She said, "Oh, thank you very much." Lovely, thank you. She said, "I would go days without sleeping." And for this particular project at university, she said, went 3 days without sleep, and she ended up in a wheelchair, never recovered. Never recovered. That was her story that she sent to me. And so sleep is vital to our health and our well-being. How many of our kids stay up all night playing computer games? And then, gentlemen, don't think it's just the kids. What about how many of us stay up nights playing dominoes? I know it doesn't happen in this church, but these are some of the things that we do that's harming our health and our well-being. This young lady was just cramming all night, studying. Not all night, but for 3 days she went without sleep, quite mistakenly, and ended up in a wheelchair and never recovered. And then how many of us are getting up, staying up late at night to watch the boxing championship, or the world boxing title? Let me just say to you that this is something that as Christians we should have no business watching. I remember when I got married, I was, we had Chris Eubank and these guys, Nigel Benn in those days. And so I would turn on the TV to watch these things, and my wife would immediately walk out the room and she'd say, "Sam, how can you be watching this thing?" And I would tell her that as a pastor, I needed to know what's going down or who's going down, And so one day I was at Newbold College. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. One day I was at Newbold and just going through this magazine and came across Evander Holyfield. And it turned out Evander Holyfield was a lay preacher. And I thought, oh, wow. So I'm reading this article about Evander Holyfield as a lay preacher, world boxing champion. And he said, "I hit him and he went down and I prayed, 'Lord, keep him down.'" And I'm saying, what kind of prayer is that? What kind of prayer is that? And then Mike Tyson, in a commentary, said that his intention was to knock his opponent's nose bone up into his brain. This thing is brutal. It's demonic. So I no longer watch this thing. I never. And so, gentlemen, I'm just saying to you, this is not something that we as Christians should be watching or indulging, but it's also harming our health and well-being. So I just want to share with you some results of the Harvard sleep studies that show why sleep is so important. Sleep is vital for learning and memory. Sleep helps the brain commit new information to memory through a process called memory consolidation. In studies, people who'd slept after learning a task did better on tests later on. Metabolism and weight. Chronic sleep deprivation may cause weight gain by affecting the way our bodies process and store carbohydrates, by altering levels of hormones and affecting our appetite. Safety. Sleep debt contributes to a greater dependency to fall asleep during the day, and that causes accidents. We see the result of that on the road. Sleep loss affects our moods, creates irritability, impatience, inability to concentrate and moodiness. So we recognize these things. Cardiovascular health. Serious sleep disorders have been linked to hypertension, increased stress hormone levels, and irregular heartbeat. Disease. Sleep deprivation alters immune function, including the activity of the body's killer cell. So keeping up with sleep may also help to fight cancer. This is just sleep. You know, so sleep is really integral, as I was alluding this morning, to our health and our well-being. So let me come to the antioxidants for our health. The doctor mentioned some of those things as he was doing the introduction. Honey is far better than sugar. I really do recommend honey. We are fortunate where we live. We can go into the village and I buy raw honey from one of the beekeepers there. And it is really very good and much better than sugar. So honey has antioxidant properties. It's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antimicrobial. There are so many benefits to honey, but it has to be the raw honey, not the not the one that's been boiled out and processed in the supermarket. You need to go to the health shop to buy good quality honey, okay? Maple syrup is another alternative sweetener, but all of these sweeteners, honey, maple syrup, remember it is sugar, it's still sweet, you know, so you don't want to go over the top on any of these things, because what happens is that your white blood cells are suppressed when you're taking a lot of sugar, you know, and your white blood cells are your soldiers. These are what protect the body, so you want to make sure that you're not using a lot of these things. Stevia is another. And then these are very, very good things. These are very good antioxidants. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. These can also form part of the dirty dozen. So lots of pesticides and so on that's used. So if you're buying the berries, try to make sure that they are organic, okay? That you're getting good quality berries rather than the ones that we see in the supermarket. The other thing that a lot of the things in the supermarkets today are genetically modified, and so you cannot find grapes in the supermarket with seeds, you know, and so you've got to know where you're going to source these things. Another excellent anti-inflammatory is pineapple, okay? Pineapple is excellent. So if you want a good anti-inflammatory, just a pineapple juice with some, not the one you buy in the box in Tesco's, because that's not real juice, and that's another presentation I'll do. But if you juice this yourself with some ginger, this is excellent as an anti-inflammatory. Powerful anti-inflammatory is turmeric. Turmeric, you can get turmeric and turmeric ginger powder. These are excellent anti-inflammatories. And so if you were to put if you had a teaspoon of turmeric with just a small amount of black pepper, it enhances the potency of the turmeric over 200%. They say 2,000%, but you know, it really does magnify the efficacy of the turmeric. And so turmeric is something that you can be having. In fact, if you go onto Amazon, you will find that they have the combination there already of turmeric and black pepper, you know, so that's something that you can have. Cauliflower, broccoli, lettuce. If you go onto Google and look for your cruciferous vegetables, these are your cancer fighters, and the cruciferous vegetables are very rich in as antioxidants. So again, I would recommend, you see, so this is why it's so important. These vegetables, your broccoli, your cabbages, lettuce, and so on, these are wonderful as antioxidants if they are not fried up and curried up. Okay? Yes, so it's very, very important. Pawpaw, you know, another fantastic antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. The pawpaw seeds are very good for, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the parasite, as a parasite cleanse. So if you want to have a good parasite cleanse, do not just eat the seeds because they're very bitter. But if you dry the seeds and grind them and sprinkle them in your porridge or on your salad, this is a good way of getting your parasite cleanse. All right? And so a good range of vegetables. This morning I was talking about the fact that, all of these foods, these are your antioxidants. Beetroot, good for high blood pressure. Your radish, your apples, all of these things. These are excellent foods that we should be having. And we need to train our children to eat these things. I some years ago, I was, while I was president of the conference, I went to a church down in Cornwall, and I was sat at lunchtime on a table where this little 5-year-old girl. And I couldn't stop looking at this girl and she looked up at me and said, "Who are you looking at?" and the reason why I was just staring at this girl, because she sat there and she was eating carrots and vegetables, and she was eating with relish, and so I was just amazed. And you know what happens, brethren? We allow our children to dictate the narrative in terms of what they will eat and what they won't eat, when the last time I checked, parents were supposed to be in charge. And so our children come to the dining table, and all they want is crisps and pizza and chips, and that's not the way, So if you want your children to be healthy, you've got to train them, And when my kids were growing up, my wife had a thing. They would come to the table. No, I don't want this. So when they come back at the next meal, same thing there. And so they've got to eat. They've got to eat until they learn to eat and appreciate good food, because these are the things that are helping to detoxify and boost the immune system. And if you're not getting these antioxidants in, the children will get sick. And so another good way is if you make up a good juice. For example, if you had beetroot and carrot juice, and I look back on the days when we were growing up as children, and we had beetroot and carrot juice, and then we put the condensed milk in it and the nutmeg, and we killed it, didn't we? We killed it, and so these things, they don't need any sweetener whatsoever. They're just fantastic as they are. And so what you can do, you make these juices and just put them in a little lolly mold in the fridge and in freezer, and you'll be surprised how these kids would love it, because it's in the form and the shape that they want. So just think about creative ways in which you can get your children engaged in having good food. And so all of these things, these are your fighters. These are what's going to nutrify the body. If you're taking in if you're taking in inflammatory foods without the antioxidants, you will get sick. So the best way to start your meal is to have a good plate of salad, a good plate of raw, because we've said that the raw foods are your live foods. These are what contain the digestive enzymes. You're helping your pancreas not to work so hard in producing those digestive enzymes, and so a good salad. What gets left on the plate the most? The salad, I'm afraid. The salad, and yet that's what's really nutrifying the body. That's what keeping disease at bay. The salad, the raw, the vegetables. You really need those in order to fight disease. I think God knew what he was doing when he made us, and gave us these things. So God says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope." And so that's God's desire for us. And so really, beloved, we just need to think about the way in which we do foods. avoid the frying, and this morning I talked about the foods that we eat and leave in the fridge for 2 days, 3 days. And at home, I'll say to my wife, if it's been there 3 days, I don't want it. I'm not touching it. So we make our own hummus, we make our own spreads. The other thing that I've not put on here that is toxic to the body or creates inflammation is all the margarines and the spreads that we're using. So if you can do away with your margarine, we don't use any margarine at all for years now. Maybe that's why my skin is looking so lovely, beloved. I don't know if you can, but we don't use margarine. So what we do, we will use avocado, we'll make guacamole, we make our own hummus, we use sunflower seeds. So there's a whole range of dips that you can make for yourself. And because, when you make these things, remember, because there's no preservatives in them, they will last at the most 2, push it 3 days if you put some lemon juice in there, but you don't want it to be lasting more than that. What you can also do is to make your own almond butter. You can make your own peanut butter. Now, if you're making your own peanut butter and your own almond butter, they will last you for a long time. And the reason for that is that because they have their own oils. And all you need to do, we live on the farm, we have an almond farm, so we make a lot of almonds, almond butter, we have almond milk, almond yogurt, and nut roast, so we do all kinds of creative things with almonds. And if you would just roast your almonds till they're golden brown, and once they're dry, just put them in the blender and just keep blending. You'll find that within 10 minutes you've got your own almond butter. You add a little salt to it. You don't need to put any oil. You don't need to put anything in there, and that will last for days because of the oil that is a natural preservative. So and the same with your peanut butter. Just go and buy your peanuts, roast them, and blend them, and the natural oils there. You don't need to put anything in it apart from salt, and that will last you for days. And that's far better than the peanut butter that you buy in the shop that has trans fats in it. So make your own. And people will say, well, I don't have the time to do all these things that you're talking about, Pastor. But let me tell you that when you get sick, you'll have all the time in the world to do those things. Okay? So what we're seeking to do is to keep disease at bay so that you won't get sick by God's grace. Okay, I'll take some questions and then we'll be done. Yes, Jason.
You mentioned the alternatives to yeast bread, and I was wondering, what about the Ezekiel bread? I've been hearing about that a lot. It's quite trendy.
Yes, sorry, he's asking about the Ezekiel bread. I don't know much about the Ezekiel bread. I can recommend the sourdough as a process. Again, if you go to YouTube, you'll find that you can find lots of recipes there for sourdough. Ezekiel goes back to, I think Walter White does a good Ezekiel bread, but it was something that we've never done. Yes, Lorraine?
Yeah, thank you. Mine was relating to the oils. Now, you said the oils, when they are heated, their molecular structure changes.
That's right. Yes.
But I understand that rapeseed oil, possibly coconut oil, has a higher heat threshold.
Yes.
So that is possibly better for us.
That's correct. So your grapeseed oil. Now, what I would say is this: that you need to look at the process to get the oil out of it, because why we say these seed oils, they use a lot of chemicals and the heat treated at a very high temperature to get the oil out of it. Whereas coconut oil, if you're getting your cold press coconut oil, cold pressed virgin olive oil, these are your best, but not for frying. So coconut oil as a a higher temperature threshold. So if you're using coconut oil, try to use just a minimal amount and not very often, because you're still, although the temperature threshold is higher, you don't want to be doing a lot of fried foods.
And on top of that as well, certainly for coconut oil, you can be looking at increasing your cholesterol. You've got to be very, and I'm only doing that because I'm talking from experience.
Yes.
That with coconut oil, your levels could go up in cholesterol. So you've got to be
very much. Yeah.
mindful of that.
So yeah, we really don't want to be using a lot of those.
Thank you, Pastor, for the presentation. And thank you for these
No problem.
the documents. My question was around smoothies and around which is preferable, having like fruit smoothies, because you mentioned that sugar was one of the inflammatory reasons, versus green smoothies. Are there like pros and cons?
Okay, so when we do the detox program with individuals, we will say, and let me go to juices. So if we're talking fruit juice, we'd say have fruit juice in the morning and then vegetable juices thereafter to control that blood sugar level. If you're having smoothies, smoothies come with the fiber, so you have not stripped out the fiber out of the fruit or out of the vegetable, so it is still a better process. But of course, if you've got illness, if you've got something like diabetes going on, then vegetable smoothies are better than fruit smoothies. And you can do a combo of vegetables and fruit when you're doing the smoothie, not when you're eating them, but as a smoothie, it's different. Yeah. Yes. So when you're doing the smoothie, you can do a combo of fruits and vegetables together. So we have had very, very good results with this. There was a lady who said to me, I'm seriously anemic. We put her on spinach and kale with banana and just fruit to sweeten it, to make it palatable. And when she went back to her doctor said to her, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. So the combination of the fruit and the veg in the smoothie, it works. If you're doing it, let's say you're putting it on your plate, then it's different. So I wouldn't recommend the two, but of mixing fruits and veg together, but in that process it worked as a smoothie. Yes, my sister over here.
Yes. The question is asked, what are the quantities? You've given us the...
Yes,
yeah.
I gave
so
you...
you've got, for instance, first one, carrots, oranges, turmeric, ginger, lemon, and celery. What proportions would you...
Yes, so I've just left that to you. And you can, again, you can go to YouTube and find, because you might want to be doing it for one person or you might want to be doing it for a household. So the quantities, remember that turmeric you'll be using in smaller measures, but the fruits, for example, you may want to have three or four carrots, 1 beetroot. It's really for you to determine. So we've not put quantities there.
Okay, and a secondary question. You mentioned how important it is to have a good night's sleep. Would you like to put an hour range for people to get an estimate of if they're within or without?
Yeah, sure. It's recommended that you're getting 6 to 8 hours sleep per night. Every hour before 12 is worth 2 hours of sleep, yeah?
Thank you, Pastor. I just wanted to know what the difference was as to why you can't combine fruit and vegetable on the plate. Just going back to what you were saying before.
They digest at different rates. So fruits will digest at a faster rate than your vegetables. And so it's recommended that so for example, in the morning, you'd have your fruits, and then in the afternoon, you do your vegetables in order to stop the dyspepsia in the stomach.
Thank you for the presentation so far. I just got one. I had to follow up, but that has been answered. So the other follow-up was on what she's asked about quantity. I was more on ratio than quantity when you went on the documents that we have for smoothie. That's one question, and the other one was question based on batch cooking and freezing. If that is something that you would advise, say for example, basically like, can you batch cook and freeze and then thaw and eat?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the second half of that. What's the second?
Batch cooking.
Yes.
So to cook in batches and then freeze them.
Yes.
And then
yes.
use as
Sure.
the week goes by.
Okay. So the first part of the question is that remember items such as ginger and turmeric, you're using smaller amounts. You don't want to put a big handful of ginger in your smoothie because you won't be able to drink it. It's just too hot. So small amount of ginger, reasonable amount of turmeric to make it tolerable. But yeah, you determine the amount you're using. Batch cooking, as long as you're freezing it, then that's fine. But if you're leaving it in the fridge, it's not a good idea. Yes.
No.
Oh, I see my sister, yes.
Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. My question is, should I or should we avoid sugar completely?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've got another thing, not to ask, but to tell you. The way I prepare my sauce, I use what is it? Olive oil. That's what I use always. But I put oil in the saucepan, then I put onions, and I put each and everything I want. Then I put on the fire, and I start stirring it. Then after it become a paste, then I put either beans or something else. Is that wrong? I don't fry my vegetable. I don't fry oil at all.
And that's excellent. We do the same. I think a lot of people would be very surprised to find that you put your onions, your garlic, your tomatoes in and just use a little water, and it's perfect. It comes out nice with all the different flavor seasonings and things. It's fine. That is the right way to do it.
Yeah, question here.
Yes,
yeah.
Laverne.
I've read documents that suggest that smoothies aren't that good for you because of the concentration of the fruit. You're taking on more calories than if you ate the fruit itself. So I tend not to drink that many smoothies because they're high in calories.
Sure. No, because if you're having the fruit, the smoothie is just the fruit, but it depends on the amount of fruit that you'll be putting into the food. So if it's one mango, you normally eat one mango, but if you're with a smoothie, you can go over the top, and so one has to be very careful. Yes. Yeah. Well, if you've got the same volume, volume is volume. You see, if you've got one mango, it's still one mango. You've still got the same fiber. I think you've still got the same fiber. But I think it's the juicing. Juicing is the problem. If you juice, it's so easy to have 4 apples in one glass of juice, which then becomes far too rich, but not with the smoothies. Yes, my sister.
Yeah, I'm asking because I normally make like stew and preserve it, but natural way at home.
Yes.
I just want to know whether am I losing the nutrients? Like if I'm making like a jollof rice
yes.
Stew, I normally make it big. Then I'll put them in a glass jar, seal them, put it in a very big pot. Then upside down in a pot, heat them, and it will boil. Then I'll leave it there to cool. Then I'll bring it out and keep it. I learned this when I have a little garden in Italy, an old lady tell me how to preserve things. So I don't, I don't need to be, when I just cook, I'll just open it and it's already sauce ready to use in anything. Is it okay, or am I losing the nutrients?
No, you're not. No, you're not, because that is the way to do it, because it's vacuum sealed, and therefore it stays, you know, we do it like that on the farm, it will last a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fine.
Yeah, and then another thing is like the ginger, turmeric, and all these spice, the dry ones, powdered ones you buy from the groceries, are they okay? Or do you have to use the fresh one?
Okay, so anything that you have cut, ground, or whatever, the process of oxidation begins. So you want to buy in its natural form and blend it yourself or use whatever you need. But if you're, let's say, for example, we'll go to the shop and we'll buy linseed or flax seeds. But if you buy the ground flax seeds already, you've lost a lot of the nutritional value in that. So you want to just grind it yourself. Okay? Yes, Dr. Jason at the back.
Okay, it's me again. So, Pastor, I've realized that based on your teachings from this morning and this evening, most of my meals, they contain something that's very, very inflammatory. And I was wondering if you would share for us some meal ideas, typical meals that you would have for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, just so that we can see how it is that we can combine stuff in a balanced way to avoid having something that's potently inflammatory.
Sure.
Please and thanks.
Okay, so for example, for breakfast, we could have a bowl of porridge with some fruits, some nuts. We would put some flaxseed on that, or pumpkin seeds, which we've already ground up on that, and then we'll have a slice of bread with avocado or tomatoes. That's a breakfast for us. Okay, so that's a typical breakfast. So you could have any kind of whole grain cereal, quinoa, the names elude me at the moment, but quinoa, barley, corn, your cornmeal, oats, any of those things you can have for your breakfast with bread, avocado, hummus, these bananas. So these are the things that we're having. A good range of fruits and so on. You know, so that will keep the inflammation away. The omega-3 fatty acids are to be found in your chia seeds, sunflower seeds, your pumpkin seeds, your flax seeds. You know, so all of these are anti-inflammatories.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we have a question from someone streaming online. It's coming from Chris, and Chris is asking, what's your advice for the cure of chronic inflammatory bowel syndrome?
Yeah, it's very difficult to respond to that, because you need to know, first of all, you need to know the lifestyle. You need to know what are the triggers, what's causing that, and then you always then work from getting rid of the cause, and then we begin to work on the cure. Hand here. Go ahead.
My question is regarding water purifiers. We use public water, which comes in the tap. And what is the best purifier you would advise to fix directly to the tap? That will help us, because the chemicals is a lot.
I would recommend the distilling machine. So you can get a distiller from Amazon. These are very good, and that's the best form of water that you can have. On the farm, because of the volume, we have a reverse osmosis filter fitted to our well water. So these are two forms of water purification that I would recommend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. You've answered a lot of questions. So 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with something called EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And it wasn't very commonly known at that time, but it's becoming quite common now. So last July, I ended up on the heart ward, on the COVID ward. I did have COVID, and they thought it was a heart attack. And then they said, well, we don't know what it was, but it wasn't a heart attack. The same happened on the 29th of June, and now they're saying it's chronic inflammatory. So the good news is that I'm not listening to what the doctors, as in MDs, are saying, because they're not getting to the root of the problem. What they do then is give steroids.
That's right. Yes.
But I had very high cholesterol, and I said, right, I'm going to do this myself. So my cholesterol was 8. And then I said, right, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to sleep well. I'm not going to be too busy. And everyone was like, you've lost the plot now. But just to let you know that I did do smoothies and everything, and my cholesterol is stable. So
excellent.
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well done. Well done. Good news.
I'm sorry, doctor. I talked about sugar, but I didn't tell you that I was not taking white sugar. I was taking sugar like that board up there. It's very, very, very brown. That's what I've been taking. Should I avoid that as well?
Yes, so it's a question of how do you want your poison, white or brown, you know.
Okay. Thank you.
We're saying avoid sugar. It's acidic in the system, regardless of whether it's white or brown.
For me, it's not so much a question. So, Pastor Sam, is oats still okay, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The rolled oats, as long as it's the rolled oats.
Okay. So, to replace the bread, I've been doing this for a few years now. I do oat flatbread, and it's literally oat and water. So you mix it. You can put a pinch of pink salt in it, and then you put it in the oven. If you want to put it in a non-stick pan without the oil, you can. Otherwise, you just flat it in the oven, and then it's like a wrap, and I use that instead of bread.
Yeah, I remember you did that with us, Jenny, at the farm. Thank you.
Yes.
I do remember that, yes. Okay, there's a hand over here to your left.
Hello, doctor. Thank you very much for taking the time out to share this valuable information with us. It's a pleasure. My question, which I want to ask, is I notice some of my older folks, in the morning before they have the breakfast, they normally have a glass of water with either lemon juice or lime in it. Is that very good for us to continue, or? Yes, that's very good practice, and I would recommend you add a little bit of turmeric in that, and that is excellent. Is it also, the question was asked about purification. If you're in an area where the water is not good and you can get something like lime, is that advisable to squeeze it in the water to purify it so that you can have it to drink? I think what's advisable is that you get yourself a good distiller to purify the water, and then the lime, what the lime does, it will help to cleanse the gut. But putting the lime in dirty water or impure water isn't going to really help, So look at getting a good water purification system to purify the water. So my colleague wants to ask a question.
He's asking, should you boil the water and cool it? Boil the water and cool it. Is that okay as well?
Yeah, that's another form of getting rid of a lot of the bacterial impurities in the water. Yeah, that's one way of doing it, but it's a long way. If you get the distilling machine, then it does it for you.
I have a question. I've recently changed from eating chicken and fish. It's taken me all my life to do that. So this year I've decided to change. So what would you recommend our members who are probably still eating the fish? Because that was one of the hardest for me to break off. What is the best way to do a transition from eating meat to plant-based? Because a lot of older members probably are maybe a bit advised from their GPs that they can stay on it, or should they come off?
Sure. I think that a lot of people feel that without meat or without animal protein, they're not going to die. They're not going to live. And so we've had people come to the farm and they're saying to me, Pastor, I need protein, you know. But there's protein in your beans, there's protein in the plant kingdom, you know, there's protein in nuts. And so what I would suggest to people who want to transition is just reduce it gradually. You know, maybe if you're having 5 days a week, then reduce to 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, while you're replacing it with good protein. Look at your beans, your legumes, and so on. These are where your proteins are, your proteins in your nuts, but certainly not in the processed vegetarian foods that we're seeing. You know, try to move away from those as much as possible. Okay.
Just one question about your farm. Is it open to the public? How would they get in contact with you?
So what we do is that from the video you saw this morning, we have sessions throughout the year. We're full up for this year, but next year I will put dates out. I can send them to Laverne or yourself, and I can make you aware of the dates. There was one more hand over here. We'll take one more question here. Yes. Thank you. I needed that.
Good afternoon. I was asking about the farm.
Yes.
Where is it? And
so we're in.
We pay.
Yeah. So we're in Almeria in Spain. We do the 10-day sessions where we're teaching the very things I've talked about here. Not only are we teaching, but we apply it there. We teach you how to do different things and so on. We take you through the detox process. That's a 10-day program. So, but as I say, we are full up for this year. But next year, I'll have the dates out. So from April of next year, we'll start again. All right? Yes. So I will send all of that through with the new advert. Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for the time. I've really enjoyed being here in Manchester South. I've heard a lot about the good things that you're doing. My colleague Joan, we work closely together, and I know that Joan is here on a regular basis doing things with you. So may God be with you, continue to bless you in all that you're doing here, and thank you for the invitation to be with you. God bless you.